My fiancé, Ethan, asked me to pick him up from a class reunion. When I arrived at the karaoke, I saw him sharing a drink mouth to mouth with a strange woman. Not only did he not explain, but he also put his arm around the woman, sneering, "Sage, you're just a charlatan. You have no right to marry into the Vance family." I froze for a few seconds, then looked down at the nearly broken crimson cord of destiny on his wrist and said coldly, "Director, do you understand the power of a mystic?" At this moment, everyone's gaze was fixed on me. A moment later, the room erupted in laughter. Where did this woman come from? Look at what she's wearing. Anyone would think she's here to read fortunes. Exactly. Mr. Ethan is the country's richest person now. He could find any woman he wants. How could he possibly marry a charlatan like her? That's absolutely right. A mere mystic advisor dreaming of marrying into a powerful and wealthy family? That's just wishful thinking. As the mocking voices grew louder around me, Ethan's expression became even more triumphant. Before I could speak, he sat up from the woman's embrace, a gloating look on his face. "Sage, you heard what everyone just said. They all agree you're not good enough for me." Mid-sentence, he suddenly broke into a laugh. "If I were you, I wouldn't shamelessly cling to the Vance family. Go back to your remote wilderness." I subtly glanced at him from the corner of my eye, my tone indifferent. "Mr. Ethan, this engagement was personally set by your grandpa years ago. Backing out now might not be a good idea, don't you think?" I had intended to appeal to Mr. Arthur's wishes and advise him kindly, but this ungrateful man simply wouldn't listen. "Sage, I'm warning you, don't try to use Grandpa to threaten me. I'm the chairman of Vance now. I have the right to choose my own future wife." By the end, Ethan's emotions suddenly flared. "I'm not afraid to tell you. The reason I had you come today was to completely sever ties with a fraud like you." Just as I was about to speak, this reckless fiancé of mine kissed the woman next to him right in front of me. Seeing this scene, a surge of anger flared within me. If Grandpa hadn't traveled a great distance to Havenwood and knelt at my door, begging tirelessly for 3 days and nights, how would I have easily descended the mountain and married such a good-for-nothing? In 3 years, I transformed Vance from a small company of just a dozen people into a Fortune 500 enterprise. The difficulty of that is self-evident. And all of this success was due to the crimson cord of destiny on Ethan's wrist. It was a gift my master gave me when I completed my training. This item is called the Bond of Destiny. As long as it's worn on the wrist, it guarantees a lifetime of prosperity and honor. Such a precious gift, I unhesitatingly gave it to the Vance family right away. Now I was cuddling with another woman in the private room, and the power of the crimson cord of destiny would gradually fade. The family, which he was so proud of, was destined for ruin. "Mr. Ethan, although we aren't married yet, we still have an engagement. Aren't you afraid of facing repercussions for doing this?" As I spoke, my gaze remained fixed on him, my words filled with menace. But merely scoffed indifferently. "Repercussions or not, aren't you just talking so much because you want money? Tell me, how much do you want? Money is the one thing I'm not short on right now." I looked at the blindly overconfident CEO before me as if he were a clown, then let out a cold laugh before speaking. "Mr. Ethan, don't say I didn't warn you. The moment you divorce me today, Vance, which stands behind you, will collapse and go bankrupt within an hour at most. Then, if you, the newly appointed country's richest person, become the most indebted person in the country, you'll have only yourself to blame." The moment I finished speaking, Ethan exploded in anger, pointing at me and cursing loudly. "Sage, stop trying to scare people. You're just a charlatan. Where do you get off thinking you have such power? Spending all this time with you, all you ever do is meditate or sleep. You don't do anything useful. To be honest, if it weren't for Grandpa, you wouldn't get a single penny." Ethan's words almost made me laugh. I, the esteemed mystic of Havenwood, the sole successor of the ancient mystical lineage, was being described as worthless by him. If my master knew this, he'd probably turn over in his grave. However, as I spoke, I noticed that the crimson cord of destiny on Ethan's wrist had begun to darken. This was a sign that the backlash was about to begin. Fine. Since the atmosphere's already built up to this, it wouldn't be good for me to drag it out any longer. Mid-sentence, the corner of my mouth involuntarily curved upward. I agree to break off the engagement, but I have one small condition. After all, canceling an engagement is a big deal, and we still need your grandpa's consent. Ethan burst out laughing after hearing me. Judging by his expression, he probably thought I was trying to use Mr. Arthur to threaten him. In reality, I simply wanted to completely sever this bond of destiny. From a mystic advisor's perspective, this is called karma. Sage, you really think highly of yourself, don't you? I'm giving you a choice out of courtesy, not to negotiate with you. I don't care who you call. This engagement must be broken off today. Understand? I heard the threat in Ethan's words, but I didn't care at all. In fact, I even felt like laughing. Without me, the Vance family would face bankruptcy at best, and at worst, complete ruin. The laughable thing was that the man in front of me still thought I was clinging to him for money. Didn't I just say it? I agree to end our engagement. But this matter must have your grandpa's consent. I can't decide alone. After saying this, I didn't wait for Ethan's agreement. I simply dialed Mr. Arthur of the Vance family right in front of everyone. Hello, is this Grandpa? It's Sage. On the other end of the line, hearing my voice, he became very agitated. Oh, Ms. Sage, it's so late. Is there something wrong for you to call? I glanced at a smug Ethan from the corner of my eye and let out a cold laugh. Mr. Arthur, it's like this, your grandson wants to break off our engagement. I'm calling to inform you that the Vance family will face ruin because of your precious grandson. The moment I finished speaking, before the other side could respond, Ethan immediately lunged at me and snatched my phone. Grandpa, please don't let yourself be fooled by this charlatan, okay? Years ago, you kept saying she was one of the country's foremost mystic masters, and we've been treating her to the best food and drink. But what about her? All she does is eat and sleep all day, doing nothing. Keeping her in the house is simply a disaster. Mr. Arthur on the other end of the line froze for a few seconds. Then I heard the sound of a glass smashing on the floor. Ethan! You good for nothing! I'm warning you. However, this time Ethan didn't wait for the other party to finish. He just hung up the phone. Witnessing this scene, any lingering goodwill I had for the Vance family instantly vanished. Ethan looked at me smugly, his eyes full of ridicule. Sage, I let you make your call. Now you have nothing left to say, do you? The moment he finished speaking, he pulled out some legal documents from his bag and had someone hand them over. Sign these, and then get out of my sight. I don't want to see you for another second. Seeing the stack of documents on the table further confirmed my earlier suspicions. My fiancé, the country's richest person, had probably already been cheating on me for a long time. For someone so ungrateful, I naturally wouldn't hold back any courtesy. In front of everyone, I signed my name without hesitation and immediately handed the documents back. Ethan saw my resolute action, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Sage, what's your game? Do you think you're so noble? I slowly raised my head and met his gaze, my voice devoid of any emotion. What? Didn't you, the country's richest person, want to dissolve our engagement from the very beginning? Now I've done as you wished, I've signed, I've put my fingerprint on it. And yet you're blaming me? As I spoke, the corner of my mouth suddenly curved, and I chuckled. I advise you to sign quickly too, lest I suddenly change my mind someday. Ethan panicked the moment he heard I might change my mind. Fine. I'll sign. It's not like anyone cares for you anyway. The moment he finished speaking, the chairman of Vance immediately signed his name. From then on, I completely cut ties with the Vance family. I don't know why, but the moment I saw Ethan sign his name, I suddenly felt a great weight lift from me. Most importantly, the thought of the Vance family's impending bankruptcy filled me with uncontrollable excitement. Mr. Ethan, for your grandpa's sake, I'll give you one last piece of advice. Mid-sentence, I suddenly raised my hand and pointed at the woman beside Ethan. This woman bears signs of impending misfortune, and there's an aura of corruption about her. She must be someone living a life of indulgence. If you stay with a person like this for too long, at best it will harm your health, and at worst, it will ruin your family. Having said this last sentence, I prepared to turn and leave. But before I could take a few steps, an angry roar suddenly came from behind me. "You little hussy, stop right there." I paused, then slowly turned around. What? Is this lady seeking a solution? My fees are quite expensive, you know. The moment I finished speaking, the woman next to Ethan shot up. "You stinking beggar. Stop your damn trickery with me. I'm perfectly healthy. It's you, you charlatan, purposely trying to stir up trouble between Mr. Ethan and me. If you don't explain yourself clearly today, you're not leaving." Even though the woman's demeanor was intimidating, a faint smile remained on my face. "If I'm not mistaken, you must be the Miller family's young Miss Chloe, right? Your family just invested in a plot of land this year to build a commercial complex. By now, it should be nearing completion." Mid-sentence, I suddenly let out a soft sigh. What a shame. That complex probably won't sell. The moment I finished speaking, Chloe's expression immediately turned grim. "You little hussy. How dare you secretly investigate me?" I shook my head with a smile. "Ms. Chloe, you probably think too highly of yourself. Your family's collaboration with the Vance family is common knowledge. Any passerby would know about it. I don't need to investigate. I merely wanted to remind you that stealing someone's fiancé can affect your own fortune." In fact, the moment I entered, I sensed that the aura around me was off. Logically speaking, with Ethan wearing the crimson cord of destiny given by my master, the Vance family shouldn't have gotten involved with such a person. But the private room was filled with smoke, temporarily shielding the crimson cord of destiny's power. And under the influence of alcohol, Ethan completely lost his judgment, which is why things turned out this way. But none of this concerns me. If some people want to court disaster, being arrogantly wealthy, then let them. Sage, how dare you threaten my woman? Are you tired of living? The moment he finished speaking, Ethan grabbed the glass from the coffee table and hurled it at me. I didn't even bother to dodge. The glass fell straight down, less than half a meter from me. With a bang, the glass shattered into pieces. The next second, over a dozen burly men in black suddenly poured into the private room, instantly surrounding me. They all looked fierce and intimidating, clearly professionally trained. While everyone's attention was on Ethan, only I noticed the distinct crack appearing on the crimson cord of destiny on his wrist. Laying hands on someone you're bound to by a bond of destiny, that is a grave transgression. Mr. Ethan, I'll tell you one last time. Listen carefully. If you so much as harm a single hair on my head today, your entire Vance family, over 100 souls, will pay the price. The moment I finished speaking, the surrounding sycophants erupted. Are my ears deceiving me? This little hussy actually dares to threaten director's family? Where does she get such audacity? This is the funniest joke I've ever heard in my life. A charlatan openly challenging the country's richest person. It's hilarious. Exactly. This woman doesn't even bother to examine herself to see what kind of person she is. At this moment, all the classmates in the private room united, eagerly bombarding me with words. As number one sycophant, Chloe was naturally no exception. You little hussy, what are you yelling about? Director's family isn't someone you can offend. Forget the Vance family, any random person here could walk all over you. I suppressed the anger in my heart, my gaze fixed on him. Ms. Chloe, I advise you to worry about yourself first. You can barely protect yourself right now, why do you still have time to meddle in other people's family affairs? Every word I spoke was the truth, yet some people simply refused to believe it. For example, Ethan, director, the country's richest person who had just topped the Forbes list. Sage, you keep telling me this is bad and that's bad. I think you're the most useless one. Everyone burst into laughter again after hearing Ethan's words. Looking at the gloating faces before me, I felt a mix of emotions, and it was quite unpleasant. I suppose this might be why my master insisted I descend the mountain for training during his lifetime. In this world, everything ultimately boils down to money. It seems it's my fault for elevating the Vance family to a height it didn't deserve. Chloe was practically gloating, seeing director personally step in to speak on her behalf. Sage, for director's sake today, I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. All you have to do is beg for forgiveness in front of all our classmates, and then our past grievances will be wiped clean. But if you refuse, then too bad. These bodyguards around you aren't just for show. I involuntarily narrowed my eyes, looking at him coldly. Ms. Chloe, you've pushed my patience time and again. Do you really think you've landed a rich sugar mama? Instead of backing down after hearing my words, Chloe's tone grew even more arrogant. You little hussy, open your blind eyes and look at the bodyguards behind you. Any one of them could beat you to death. Even if the heavens descended today, you'd still have to beg me for forgiveness. The family's young miss grew more agitated as she spoke, almost spitting in my face. Seeing my prolonged inaction, Ethan, who was surrounded in the center of the crowd, instantly grew impatient. He casually picked up a bottle, then took a stride and charged at me. It seemed he intended to attack me himself. It was at this very moment that the crimson cord of destiny on Ethan's wrist completely snapped in two. Seeing this scene, I let out a soft sigh. The bond of destiny has backfired. The family is truly finished now. Under everyone's astonished gazes, I easily dodged Ethan's overhead strike. Before he could react, I picked up the microphone from the coffee table. First, I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend the class reunion organized by director. As a token of my gratitude, I've decided to let you all witness firsthand how the Vance family meets its demise. The moment I finished speaking, all the classmates in the private room instantly stood up, their faces flushed crimson. Young lady, you don't look old, but your words are quite bold. How dare you threaten director? Do you believe that with just one casual word from Mr. Ethan, there won't be a place for you in Olive Bay? Exactly. Do you think you're a deity, just proclaiming bankruptcy as if it's that easy? My words were a direct slap in Ethan's face, and this conceited country's richest person cared most about his reputation. If I hadn't trained with my master for a few years, I might have been beaten senseless by now. But someone among them actually got it right. I'm certainly not a deity, but dealing with the mere Vance family is more than enough for me. Over the years, I've secretly helped the Vance family overcome countless difficulties, which led to their current achievements. But now, they're turning the tables on me, even despising me. Chloe, who had been silent for a long time on the side, beamed when she saw me become the target of everyone's attacks. Sage, even director doesn't want you anymore. What nerve do you have to stand here? I think you just want more money, so you're deliberately making up a story to get the Vance family to throw you a bone. I couldn't help but laugh. Ms. Chloe, some things are better understood than explained. If you don't believe me, you're welcome to step out of this private room and see. I guarantee you, within 10 minutes, you will experience a violent mishap. After hearing my words, Chloe maintained her nonchalant attitude. Stop trying to scare people. Others might not know you, but I certainly do, don't I? Before, you only had a reputation because you clung to director's fiancé title. Now that you've left the Vance family, who the hell even knows you? It wasn't until I heard Chloe's words that I instantly understood. She was trying to usurp my position. Too bad she chose the wrong target this time. The tactic of discarding someone after they've served their purpose wouldn't work on me at all. If I could make the inconspicuous Vance family the country's richest person in such a short time, I could just as easily turn it to ashes overnight. This was my confidence as a mystic. But with things having come to this, I now had another target, the Miller family. Chloe didn't know what I was planning at this moment. Seeing my silence, her words grew even more unrestrained. Hey, Sage, didn't you just say I'd have a violent mishap? Today, I'm going to prove to everyone that you're a complete charlatan. With that, she waved her hand at the people behind her. Everyone, come out with me. I want to see where this violent mishap is. As rallied the crowd, the dozen or so classmates in the private room instantly grew interested and followed her out. Seeing this scene, I almost burst out laughing. Truly worthy of the Miller family's young miss. Such courage, I'm truly impressed. Chloe, thinking I was praising her, threw her head back and laughed loudly. You little hussy, I'm going to stand outside for 10 full minutes today. If nothing happens to me later, you'll have to beg me for forgiveness." After saying this last sentence, Chloe immediately led the group triumphantly out of the private room. Upon reaching the parking lot, Chloe stood still, hands in her pockets. "Sage, I'm standing right here. Let's see if your predictions are accurate or if my luck is stronger." I didn't respond, merely tilting my head slightly to examine her face. The dark aura on Chloe's forehead had already spread to her brow. I estimated it wouldn't even take 10 minutes, at most 10 seconds, before a major disaster befell her. While the classmates around me continued to mock, I silently counted down in my mind. "It's here!" The instant Chloe lowered her head, a black unmarked van came barreling straight towards the parking lot. Before anyone could react or warn her, the speeding van crashed through the barrier. By the time Chloe reacted, she had already been struck and sent flying over 10 meters, tracing a perfect arc through the air. It all happened too fast. No one would have expected a vehicle to come careening from across the road. Suddenly, the scene erupted into chaos. Some in the crowd were screaming, some covered their faces unable to watch, and some were calling emergency services on their phones. As the organizer of the class reunion, Ethan was the first to react, helping to lift Chloe onto the ambulance. I watched the scene from the crowd and sighed deeply. "Just inform the family. She can't be saved." Hearing my words, Ethan spun around, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me. "Sage, did you deliberately arrange that black car?" I froze for a few seconds, then looked at him coldly. "Mr. Ethan, do you actually believe what I'm saying now? I told you from the very beginning that she was afflicted with dark energy and wouldn't live long, yet you insisted on getting involved with such a person." Before I could finish, Ethan's face instantly changed, and he pointed at me, cursing loudly. "Sage, I'm telling you, if Chloe doesn't wake up, I won't let you off the hook." I spread my hands in a helpless gesture. "Mr. Ethan, you still haven't realized the gravity of the situation, have you? I advise you to focus on yourself, because in another 20 minutes, your fate will also be quite terrible." Perhaps because my earlier prediction had been validated, the people around me gradually began to look at me with fear. The classmates who had witnessed my abilities in the private room now chose to distance themselves from Ethan, afraid of being implicated. However, the usually domineering Ethan exploded in rage when he saw his lackeys moving further and further away from him. "What is the meaning of this? Are you telling me that each of you, being college graduates, actually believes what a charlatan like her says?" Even though the Vance family now possessed countless riches, the scene of Chloe being hit by the car was still vivid in everyone's minds, and all the classmates remained rooted to their spots, unmoving. Everyone fears death. What good is endless wealth if you don't have a life to spend it? Seeing the scene, Ethan trembled with rage, his eyes wishing he could tear me to shreds on the spot. Just then, someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, "Look who's here!" Hearing this, everyone turned their heads to look towards the parking lot. An elderly man with white hair was jogging towards us, panting. "Grandpa, why are you here?" Mr. Arthur had no time to acknowledge his grandson. He immediately clasped my hand. "Miss Sage, I've spoiled my grandson. He didn't hurt you, did he?" I waved my hand dismissively. "It's fine, Mr. Arthur. You really don't have to be so polite with me. I'm no longer part of the Vance family." The moment I finished speaking, Mr. Arthur broke out in a cold sweat. He glanced back at his grandson, and combining that with the previous phone call, he instantly understood what had happened. He looked at me cautiously, about to say something, but I silenced him with a look. "Ethan, get over here now." With Arthur's furious roar, the noisy scene immediately fell silent. Everyone's eyes were filled with curiosity. They couldn't understand why the founder of Vance was so furious. The next second, Mr. Arthur showed everyone with his actions. With a loud smack, 5 red finger marks instantly appeared on Ethan's face. "You fool, who gave you permission to dissolve the engagement without my consent? Answer me!" Ethan was clearly dazed by the slap, looking at Mr. Arthur in confusion. "Grandpa, why did you hit me? It's just breaking off an engagement. Why are you getting so worked up? Besides, I'm the chairman of Vance, and all my classmates are here. Can't you at least save me some face?" Mr. Arthur trembled with rage at his grandson's words, his face instantly flushing. You have the nerve to ask me why? It's your honor to be able to marry Ms. Sage, and it's our entire family's honor. You unilaterally broke off the engagement without my permission. Our entire Vance family might be ruined because of you. Mr. Arthur's words were powerful and resonant, but Ethan's mind was a muddle. He couldn't understand how I, merely a mystic advisor, could possibly implicate the entire Vance family. Grandpa, what are you even talking about? Isn't she just a charlatan? Why can't I break off the engagement with her? Ethan's words clearly reached the classmates' ears, and everyone's eyes were now filled with curiosity. They eagerly wanted to know from Mr. Arthur if I was truly a fraud and if the earlier car accident was merely a coincidence. But how could Mr. Arthur dare to reveal my identity without my permission? Perhaps to outsiders, he now appeared advanced in years and easily deceived. But only I knew that the reason he humbled himself to come to Havenwood and plead with me was to ensure centuries of prosperity for the Vance family. I stood silently to the side, and Mr. Arthur could only continue lecturing his grandson. Ethan, as the head of the Vance family, I order you to immediately offer Miss Sage a sincere apology. Otherwise, you will face family consequences. Mr. Arthur's words were the final straw for Ethan. On one side was his grandpa's command, on the other, the joy of being a single rich man. He clearly hesitated. Just as the scene fell silent, I slowly stepped forward. An apology isn't necessary. The family's momentum is gone now, it's beyond saving. The moment I finished speaking, everyone present looked at me as if I were insane. Sage, your words can only fool my grandpa. There's no way you can scare me. I'm definitely breaking off this engagement today. I'd like to see if my Vance family actually goes bankrupt. I looked up at Ethan, the corner of my mouth involuntarily curling upward. So, Mr. Ethan, you've believed from the start that the Vance family became the country's richest person entirely on its own, correct? Although I rarely involved myself in Vance's business dealings on a daily basis, every single business partner was meticulously selected by me. It's just that Ethan had only been in charge for a short time and was completely unaware of many internal details. What else? You don't actually think I, the esteemed chairman, need a charlatan like you to dictate things, do you? Mid-sentence, Ethan chuckled. Sage, I'm not like my grandpa, who's advanced in years and enjoys believing in baseless things. You can't fool me at all. I glanced at the time, then let out a cold laugh before speaking. Mr. Ethan, confidence is a good thing, but being blindly overconfident is your mistake. How about I make an exception and make another bet with you today? I bet that in no more than 5 minutes, the Vance you're so proud of will completely crumble. Standing to the side, Mr. Arthur panicked the moment he heard my words. He was about to bow and apologize to me, but I quickly caught him and helped him up. Mr. Arthur, you should have heard what your grandson just said. I wouldn't want the reputation of a mystic to have all efforts going to waste, so please, Mr. Arthur, just stand aside and rest. If you don't show some people your true abilities, they really think they're invincible. After speaking with Mr. Arthur, I turned my attention back to Ethan. Mr. Ethan, didn't you ask me to come today to break off our engagement? I can grant your wish. But I also have a condition. Ethan, thinking I was after his family's money, looked utterly disdainful. See? I told you so. In the end, it always comes down to money, doesn't it? I smiled and shook my head. Your meager money doesn't impress me at all. I just want to tell you, don't come begging me for forgiveness 5 minutes from now. Ethan thought I was still playing tricks, his tone completely nonchalant. Whoever begs you is a dog, okay? I had originally intended to help the Vance family overcome this crisis, out of respect for Mr. Arthur's personal effort in coming here. But some people were completely oblivious to the danger. The moment the clock on the wall struck midnight, Ethan's phone rang in his pocket. He hesitated for a few seconds, then answered it on the spot. What did you say? A moment later, Ethan's eyes widened, and he stared at me with an expression of disbelief. Vance. It really was seized? After triple confirming with the legal department on the phone, Ethan was completely stunned. Sage, how did you know about the company's tax evasion? Did you secretly monitor me? Ethan's expression told me that he still refused to believe I possessed mystical foresight. However, this time, I didn't even need to speak myself. Mr. Arthur, who had been holding back for a long time, immediately stepped forward. You good for nothing. Shut up right now. Aren't the troubles you've caused big enough already? The head of the Vance family finally reached his limit and exploded in rage. Ethan, do you still not understand why I wanted you to marry Ms. Sage back then? Even if you don't believe in mystic arts, you should at least believe me, your grandpa, right? The business empire I painstakingly built has been completely ruined by you. What exactly are you trying to do? The more Mr. Arthur spoke, the more agitated he became, eventually stomping his foot in frustration. I wasn't being modest. There wasn't a hint of exaggeration in what Mr. Arthur had just said. Without that engagement, the Vance family wouldn't be the country's richest person it is today. After hearing his grandpa's words, Ethan finally sobered up, falling to his knees before me, his face streaked with tears. Ms. Sage, it was all my fault for being so foolish and offending you earlier. Please, I beg you, save my company. At this moment, everyone at the class reunion looked at me with a drastic change in their eyes, filled with terror. After all, they had all spoken in Ethan's defense and mocked me earlier. As for that young Miss Chloe, there's no need to mention her. By now, she should probably be in the morgue. Mr. Ethan, you should be thankful you didn't do anything more outrageous to me earlier. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to kneel here begging me now. Before I could finish, Ethan burst into tears on the spot. Master, I truly know I was wrong. It was all a moment of folly that led me to break off our engagement with you. How about this? We can get engaged again in front of Grandpa. The agreement we signed earlier won't count. By the end, Ethan's voice was choked with sobs. Sage, I'm begging you, the Vance family can't be destroyed by my hands. I curved my lips, my gaze fixed on him. Mr. Ethan, it's too late for anything you say now. Do you remember the crimson cord of destiny you wore on your wrist? It was the primary reason your Vance family became the country's richest person. But now you've broken it, and restoring it is simply impossible. My words were like a divine decree, and Ethan suddenly fell silent. Given the circumstances, Mr. Arthur, who had just regained his composure, also found himself unable to say anything more. After all, he knew deep down that everything that happened to the Vance family was his grandson's doing. No one else was to blame. At this moment, the scene was eerily quiet. Everyone was curious to see what the Vance family's ultimate fate would be. After a long pause, I turned to the elderly Arthur and made a move that shocked everyone. Mr. Arthur, if you still want to save the Vance family, there's only one last way. As soon as I finished speaking, the eyes of the grandfather and grandson before me suddenly lit up. Ms. Sage, please tell us what the method is right away. As long as it keeps the Vance from collapsing, I'll do anything. I raised my hand and pointed at Ethan, who was kneeling on the ground, speaking coldly. Expel him from your Vance family. The moment my words left my lips, Ethan's expression immediately changed. No, you can't do this to me. Even though we had no feelings for each other before, we still have an engagement. For a selfish man like him, I didn't bother with idle talk and retorted directly. Mr. Ethan, weren't you begging me to save the Vance family before? Now that I've offered a solution, you're suddenly unwilling. What I can tell you is, if you want to save the Vance family, this is the only way. My last statement was also directed at the head of the Vance family, who stood nearby. While making my stance clear, it also served as an opportunity for the old man who had toiled his whole life. After all, the fault lay with Ethan, not anyone else. After a moment of hesitation, Mr. Arthur nodded emphatically at me. Ms. Sage, then we'll proceed as you've instructed. I'll go back and amend the family records right away. Ethan tried to make one last struggle, but whatever he said now, it was useless to change anything. As the classmates in the private room gradually dispersed, Ethan slumped weakly onto the sofa, pale and lifeless, his gaze vacant. Meanwhile, I was already on a plane returning to Havenwood. From then on, my reputation as the mystic spread across the country, and every day, elites from all walks of life came from far and wide to seek my counsel. Years later, I found the method for mending the crimson cord of destiny among my master's belongings. This time, I wasn't in a hurry to descend the mountain. Instead, I quietly waited for the next destined one.